Welcome everybody to For Feck's Sake Marketing Adventures with Carmel, and today with Gisela.
Hi.
So it's my absolute pleasure to have Gisela on here. So For Feck's Sake Marketing is all about tips, tricks in marketing that have worked, have not worked, experiences that I found or that I've learned from other people, and it's about interviewing business people and getting to know a little bit more about the people behind the business. And also, they're going to share some tips and tricks. And today is going to be how creativity can help you in your business. So, is it Giselle or Gisela?
That's
Let me make
Gisela.
sure.
Yeah, Gisela.
Gisela. I thought it was. So Gisela is an artist, full of fun, creative medicine woman, tech goddess, and creativity counselor. But very playful. I actually attended one of your classes, gosh, months ago now,
Mm,
and it was very wild and painty. But the actual fun and the playfulness and using art as a therapy is just really, really powerful,
it is.
and it brings out that little inner child. I know I'm preaching to the choir. But before we go into the tips and how that creativity can actually help you into business, tell us a little bit about Gisela and about how you came to where you are now. And I know we haven't got hours, but you know what I mean, the short version
The short version.
of how you came to be doing what you're doing now.
Okay, so pretty much I was a high school art teacher forever. I mean, I've always been an artist. I've only owned
Right.
that
Okay.
recently, but it's like I've always been an artist. But I wasn't, confident enough to go and do an arts career as such. So I needed to go and do something arty that would bring in some money. So I went and did teaching. And that's been great. But what I've found probably the last 10 years of teaching that there's a lot of disconnect for kids. There's no, so that made me interested in the whole idea of the counselling. I went and did art therapy training, and the more I looked at it, it's like it was all very clinical. And so when I learnt intentional creativity about 4 or 5 years ago now, that was like an explosion of everything coming together, and it was like, oh, this is how it is. Because what it
Yeah.
does is that whole process of how could I bring that creativity, but that the healing aspect of it as well. How to mend things, how to get new ideas, and you can direct it in so many different ways. About 3 years ago, I retired from teaching. I decided that that system I can't fix it from inside or outside, so I'm just going
Yeah.
to work around it and deal with the older people, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. The people that have been through that system,
Yeah.
that as you say, that might have a bit more realization now and go, hang on, no, I didn't enjoy that, and now maybe I can.
No, and that's one of the things that I found. It was so healthy for the kids to do the art therapy processes and all this, but because I had to do the curriculum stuff, I couldn't actually marry those two up in a
Yeah,
efficient way for
yeah,
what my bosses wanted me to do. So I went, right, I'm out. So now I'm doing this work with people, and now in the counselling aspect of it, and mentoring people to bring about whatever it is that they really want from themselves, because it's everything's inside. That's pretty much
yeah.
my thing. Everything's inside. We just got to find a way of getting it out.
So tell us what was that change for you, that okay, you had the realization that you couldn't kind of fight the system, if you like, but we'll talk more about that. But what was that aha moment, that change, that defining moment, whatever language you want to put on it, that made you go, no, I'm giving up the job, I have to do this? What was that?
It was just this yearning, like because to do the teaching process that I do with people, I mean, I had to go through it, and it's like going on a quest. So for a whole year, like 9 months, basically, gestational period, and
Hmm.
yeah, 5 paintings later, 5 very big paintings later, all of this stuff came out. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is my life. And I mean, this one's my big. I keep that one there to remind me, because that one was the one that did so many shifting things, because it was all this stuff that I didn't realize that I was holding on to that stopped me from going forward. And that's when we did the whole move down to Perth, and just like, all right, let's
Right.
act. And it was brilliant.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because some people would have their vision board on their wall, and I suppose in some ways it's almost a vision of what you've been through board. Cool, awesome. And look, art is very, for me, interpretive, as in it's interpreted by the person viewing it or by the person painting it for whatever reason. Would I be fairly accurate in that
Yeah, it's
assumption?
very very subjective. So you know,
Subjective, that's the word.
one person can create something, and 10 people can look at it and get 10 different things out of it.
Yeah, I see some of the, in museums and things like that. You look at the art and somebody goes about all the intricacies, and I go, what? I can't see that. So it's amazing. So I just want to bring it back for one sec when you said like that. We're not taught these things, and we're quite often not. We're put into a school system or a whatever system, so we're not taught to bring that creative brain out. Or there is also quite often, you were saying that, I had to make this art pay money, because we're told, oh, it's an arty job, that's an arty farty, and you have visions of the poor artist and the whatever. So society kind of tells you either make it to go make a job, because you can never make it as an artist. How did you go through that?
Through that, well, that took a lot of work.
Because it is kind of a meme, if you like. It's like, oh, well,
I
you
know,
have to
but
do
and the thing
this.
is, it's not true because there are so many artists out there. I mean, it used to be a very closed in sort of thing, but with the explosion of the internet and social media,
Mm.
so many artists are getting out there, and it's pretty much whatever people like. So
Yeah,
anybody can make you know their artwork be profitable, I guess, in a way.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I guess for me, it wasn't ever so much about making profit from my art as such, but it more of creating, from within. And then if people like it, they don't. I find that creating just for the sake of selling doesn't work.
yeah,
It's one of those things. If you create from that aspect, you don't actually create properly. It doesn't.
yeah. Because it's like something else instead of just channeling, I would imagine, what
Mm.
yeah.
So I mean, and
Yeah,
it's something that you develop over time, and you know, it's like anything or whatever skill you've got, you've still got to keep working on it, developing it. You grow as a person, your craft grows. You might change directions here and there, like with anything else that you do.
yeah, absolutely. And the only reason I went back to that is just that quite often we're taught this is the right one way thinking.
Mm.
And if you're a bit outside the square, it can be a bit more challenging, or you feel like you don't belong, you don't fit in, and all of that stuff. I know also that you're very techie. So the techie side would be like, it's kind of, hang on, it's like left and right brain working at the same time. Whereas quite often somebody is either either, or it's a learned behavior. But I know that you're very techie as well. So how did you, was the techie a learned behavior and the art was always there, or was it the other way
Well,
around?
the art was always there, but I'm probably from the last generation where I had no computer at school. I went
Yeah,
through uni without a computer. I did book research,
me too.
So, but it was when I started teaching that computers really kicked in, and it
Yeah,
was expected that you do it. So you learn it. And I
yeah.
don't know, maybe it's just my bent, but I pick up software really easily.
Mm.
Um, some people have, a lot of it's mindset about, oh, it's new, it's scary, I don't want to do it. But it's actually quite doable. I think
The
that's,
resistance to change, because that's what I so relate to that, because that's what I call myself now, the online granny. It's like, if I can do it, so can you. Because exactly, I didn't go to uni, but there was no computers, and we certainly didn't have a computer in our house. We didn't use them in school. They were coming in, I started learning typing on the old manual typewriters, for God's sake, an electric typewriter, not a keyboard. I'm really showing my age now, where you have to go to press the key.
yep.
And there was a fear of, oh my God, what if I break it? What if I press that and I delete everything on it and things like that? But
Mm.
I think when you let go of the fear of getting it wrong, it's like that in so many areas, that, and you go, I'm just teachable, just somebody just show me, and get somebody to actually support and show you.
Yeah.
But I was just interested, because quite often a techie person and creative person,
Yeah, I think.
it's usually a resistance in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, there's always resistance to some things. You go.
Yeah.
I fought with WordPress for ages because I hadn't wanted to go to WordPress, but I ended up with WordPress. And then all of a sudden, it's like when I let it go, it's just like, oh, click, there we go, let's get
Ah,
on with it.
it's awesome. It's awesome. WordPress is the way to go. Anyway, tell me what is, this is a question I always ask my guests, and because again, it's very, very subjective. What is success to you?
Cool. Success is
Mm.
creating transformation, or and helping people to find that change in themselves and seeing it happen. It's a lot of the time it's a delayed sort of a gratification to see it, but that's success to me. Success is having the space to go and be able to go and create when I want to. um, you know now that we've got the new place, it's like setting up the orchard, getting things, working with
Mm.
my sustainability within the space that I've got. That's the sort of thing that's success to me.
So it sounds like success is freedom. If that's the freedom to make the choices and do what you do want to do when you want to do it
Yeah, and enjoy what I'm doing.
and enjoy it. Yeah, yeah, it is. And as you start to get a bit older, I think you do. You kind of you let go of all the fluffy stuff and go. I just want to enjoy what I want to enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So, tell me one, because we've all made them. We've all made mistakes along the way. Oh my God, have we ever? I could be here for an hour just talking about that. So what's one of the biggest mistakes that you've made in building a business?
Thinking that I had a business when I didn't.
A very expensive hobby.
A very expensive hobby. So when I was doing my training for intentional creativity, one of the aspects of the training was actually to be running classes. So teaching others how to paint in this
Yeah,
way and doing this work. And while I was doing my teaching job, so this was like an evening, weekend thing, and it was going really well. And classes all year. Pretty much paid for all my training, so that was brilliant. Paid for
yeah,
all the equipment, all the paint, you know. And I was like, when we moved back down to Perth, it was almost this thing like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running, and I've got all these ideas. And when I got down here, it was like, oh, wait a minute, people don't know me here. Ooh.
yeah. I think we first talked shortly after you got down, didn't we?
Yeah, and then I had a double whammy because I'd quit the job, but I
Yeah,
also hadn't realised how much institutionalisation I'd had in that 7 year stint of full time teaching. And all
yeah,
of a sudden,
yeah,
having no schedule, no, I need to be here, I need to be doing this is what I do with my day, was
yeah,
really big shock to the system, as well as finding out, well, hang on a minute, I actually have to do a business plan of some description. What do I
yeah,
actually want to do with this?
yeah. Yeah, I love that because it's going from, and gosh, I've had so many conversations with some of the members in our group and clients about going from, we talk a bit about the different selves we have, and look, you can say it's different masks we wear, different personalities, whatever. To me, it's different selves. I have a whole freaking choir of them. But anyway, they all have their own voice and it needs to be heard when it needs to be heard, but they just don't all have to sing together. But part of it is that we have an employee self and a business owner, entrepreneur self, or employer self. And I think when we go from employee self to employer self, we've just switched roles, but the frigging business owner has no idea how to make money. Because they've already always relied on somebody else to give them a wage.
Yes.
They haven't actually, like, I mean, I was in corporate for years in corporate hospitality. I could make millions for other businesses, but when it came to doing it for myself, it's like, well, hang on, I knew how to do some marketing and bits and bobs, but I actually had never had the business owner hat on.
Mm.
And it's a completely different, it's a
It's
whole transition, isn't
very
it? To go
different.
to, and then you go through the, what's wrong with me? I was able to do it there. Why am I not? I'm not in a routine. Yeah, it's a whole transition. Go from hospitality hours to normal hours was a transition in itself. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question and then we'll get into the tips that you have for us because this is things, and it's a question I love to ask
Mm.
because I'm always curious. What are your success habits? So everybody has them. Some people are up in the morning walking, some journaling, some meditating. Like, what is it that you have put in place to keep you motivated and sustained, to grow the business and be all that you can be?
Ooh. Well, I've actually put in a few things now. I definitely have like I guess a positive journaling habit that I do in the mornings, and I find that's really good to get into that right headspace, and also getting into a bit more of a flow with the just feeling into things rather than waking up and going, oh, I need to do this and this and that and that and the other.
Yeah.
So that stuff gets left till later in the morning, so that there's space to just be and to really feel into what needs to be happening at the moment. So, and I'm finding that
Yeah.
is really helpful, getting into that real feminine aspect,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
getting
Yeah.
into flow, and things like going out into the studio and spending some time just creating. I've got a big canvas. I just walk in there every so often, just chuck some paint on. It's like, well, what needs to happen now? Okay, let's paint. It might only be half an hour, 20 minutes, and okay, I've done some, and it ticks something over,
Yeah.
you know. So
It take me half an hour, 20 minutes just to get ready to bloody paint. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's that, as you say, getting into that feminine, because I find the same, it's being still. Now, I used to have a big thing with meditation because I have monkey mind on steroids. Sometimes I was going, I haven't time to meditate, I can't stay still. And one of the best things I found was the simplest thing, and people have often ever said, is I actually wash the dishes
yep,
and literally just stay present to the smell of the dishwasher liquid, the feel of how hot the water is, the feel of the dishes. And now I can meditate longer, but that was actually how I got into it. Because who said meditation has to be sitting like,
no. Well, that's one of the things that I work with is showing people, like, well, I'm doing a challenge at the moment, where I'm showing people, like, well, here's some little things that you can do, and you can get lost in just doing a little bit of a drawing. That doesn't have to be
yeah,
anything particular. It's just
yeah.
draw it and then color it in, and it just can just get you into that zone so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's putting those things, we call it a feedback loop. It's putting those things in place because we have a defunct feedback loop quite often. It's like, oh, high emotion happens, there must be something wrong with me, this happens, and it sets off and triggers a habit of behavior. So it's getting into that, changing it and making a new habit of behavior. I actually drew out one just recently, is heightened emotion. These are things I can do, because you get to the other side of it and you go, oh my God, I got myself out of that funk by doing this, this, and this. But when you're in it, you don't always remember to dance or move or whatever. To me, it's move the energy no matter what I do, whether I go for a gentle walk or I dance around the lounge room. When I'm feeling in a funk, just move the energy and then it starts to open up stuff.
Yeah, because we spend
Cool.
so much time just going so fast now, and that gets really crazy in your mind. So you need to be able
Is
to
that
just slow.
relative to our age, do you think? Is it a percentage wise relative to our age? As we get older, the time seems to
I think
speed
as
up.
you get older, you're probably more likely to go, no, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to slow that down. And
I actually heard a very good quote today by Marie Forleo. Have you heard of Marie
yes,
Forleo? Yeah, and I have to take it out there because it really struck me. You know the way you hear something from somebody, you go, "Oh my God!" And it was when you know what is important, it's a lot easier to ignore what's not. I went, yes, that's so true. So the dishes can bloody stay there when this thing's important, or the dishes can be my meditation when I'm important, and other stuff can go down. So
yeah.
yeah, cool, awesome. So give us your top 3 to 5 tips
3 to 5
of
tips.
why and how creativity in business can really help your business.
Okay, so one of the things that when we're doing any, I don't know if I can change it into just specifically 3, but like overall, um, we've got this whole, we get very stuck in the masculine. I'm not saying being male, but more that masculine structural aspect. So,
So for somebody that's watching, I have an assumption when you say the masculine, because I talk a lot about it in another area. But just give us a brief overview when you say stuck in the masculine. What are the tendency of the masculine
so
energy, if you like?
that's very active and very much action based. So you're doing. So
Yeah.
you've got your list. You've got, I've got to get through this and this and this. I'm doing, the social media. I've got the
I'm in
website.
my masculine. Yeah.
Yeah. But what happens is that we've got to have the balance of the feminine. And usually, when you want to create something new, you get a flash of an idea. And
Yeah.
our tendency is to generally go, take that idea and just throw it into that structure. Oh, let's put it into this, we're going to put it into that. And it's instead of giving us ourselves maybe a little bit of time to actually just feel into that. And this is where the creative aspect doesn't mean that you need to go off and become a painter or anything. You can if you want, because it actually works really well. But just allowing time to, I guess, percolate that idea, you get more information about what else could go with it, what else can happen with it before you put it into a structure. It's just that we're so used to just putting things straight into a structure. So give yourself time when
And
you
would
go
it
to like,
be trust? I actually have a quote that my members keep telling me off for because they go, "Oh yeah, we know." It's like the process is the process, and when you find the process, so it is that a bit of an idea, maybe going, moving, walking, and letting it percolate, and a brain dump at times, so you keep your nose, but come back to it a day or two later and put it into a structure. Is that what you mean?
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much,
cool.
because
Yeah,
it allows for all of it to come out. Because sometimes you get little snippets of like, oh, this would be a really cool idea. And then we just kind of try and force it into something that we think should be instead of allowing, because, our imagination, I guess, that stuff inside has so much, but we've got to let it come out instead
yeah.
of trying to control it, because that's part of it, I guess. It's that wanting to control it because it should fit into a certain box. What
Well, that's
happens?
what we're taught, isn't it? That everything should fit into a box.
I know, and it doesn't. So like, I'll show you. This is one that I did a little while ago. But one of the things that I find is that if you've got lots of ideas and obviously you're not going to work on everything at once, but you don't want to lose them. So I do things like this where I have
You have a
like
mind
my
map kind of thing.
kind of a mind map, but a drawing of like a basket, and it's like, oh, what's all these ideas, and I'll put that in there, and then if I have an idea of what else goes with that, enjoying it up, and using color,
Right.
using color in something like a mind map, or even if you've got post-it notes, on a board that you can have
Yeah, because you
color.
can move them all
You move
around
them
as well.
around,
Yeah.
and the color actually helps in with your brain. Like if we get too much into doing straight black and white writing all the time, your brain doesn't really take much notice of that. It's like
Yeah.
you'll forget all about it. You'll have to go back through your notes and go, oh, there was something that I remember back then. But if you've got it
Yeah.
color, it really brings something.
I suppose it's like bringing in all the senses, the same as your auditory and your olfactory and your vision and your kinesthetic. So it's bringing the color goes into more of the visual and the kinesthetic side of it too. So it's kind of bombarding your brain from all angles.
All angles, and
Would
then
that be right?
things come out, and then your wisdom
Yeah.
comes through, so that you can go,
Right.
oh, where do I need to focus right now? Because obviously you can't do everything at once. You know,
Why? We try. The
you can
thoughts in
try.
the air.
Well,
Yeah.
I say that while I'm doing about 4 things at once, but I mean like one at a time to play with, and then bring in
It
the
is.
next one. Give yourself that space. And from a creative point of view too, is give yourself some level of creative practice in some way or other. Some people find that things like colouring in, those beautiful colouring in books that are around.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They're not they're not as good as you doing your own drawings. Although people freak out about drawing, you actually can do it. But even just doing that, at one end of your day, just gets you to just really calm down and relax. We're just sometimes so heightened with running around, and if you're running a busy business, when are you having downtime that it doesn't require much?
Never.
No, but this is the
Quite
thing.
often. That's
We
what's happening.
we
Yeah.
need to change that for ourselves, particularly women, I think, more so than men, because we're usually the ones that are got all the other stuff like the family, the household stuff that we're responsible for most of the time. So there's a lot of stuff to carry, and plus
Yeah.
you need to give yourself that space to just wind down without having necessarily having too many wines or just sitting in front of the telly.
I'm Irish, and it's probably people are going to shoot me for saying this, but I'm actually not a drinker at all. I used to, because it's kind of, that's what you do. You go out and have a few drinks. I discovered as an adult, I actually don't like the taste of alcohol. I just don't like it. So, as an older person said, I don't want it. A glass of wine now and again with a meal, maybe.
Yeah,
But I don't like the taste of alcohol overall.
that's fair enough.
Yeah. But I was told that that's how you're not Irish if you don't drink. What's wrong with you? Like, okay.
Bit of a
So
stereotype.
if you were to get somebody who is doing exactly as you've described, and sorry to disturb you because I know you've got lots more go to share, but I'm trying to get like a kind of a tangible step that if somebody is finding that I've got so many balls in the air. What's one thing? I get that, yeah, put down the balls in the air, Karen, and just stay still. But how can they do that? What's a tip to get them to do that if that's what they're doing at the
Well, a
moment?
tip, okay, I'll give you one that's a really cool one. It's this thing called metacognitive drawing. And all it requires for you to do, I know it sounds like a little bit fancy, but it's actually really
Fancy
simple.
schmancy.
Very simple thing. And all you need is a pen and paper. And what you do is that you write down what is it that you're working on that you want to focus on. So you might say,
Yeah.
okay, what's the next step? Might be your thing. So you just write down what's the next step. And you put yourself a timer on for a minute and you just draw with a pen, just wherever it goes, following it, not thinking about it, but just holding that idea of what's the next step and just just keep drawing until you end up to the 1 minute. And at that point, then just see if something has surfaced, you got an answer. It might be just a sentence, it might be a word, it might be an image. Something will
Right.
pop up from that. And the reason that happens is that when you try to find out what to or where, answer a question, your conscious mind gets in the way because it wants to control everything.
Of course. Come on. Yeah.
So and then that's the really beautiful thing about creative practice, however you do it. Some people do music, some people do,
Yeah.
cooking, whatever. But in
And
that,
it's to find what works for you, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you're keeping like with a drawing, you're actually keeping your conscious mind is focusing on this pen moving around and it's wanting to sort of try and control it, but it's kind of going with it and it's focused in on that bit of paper. Meanwhile, the other part of you is actually it's like going, oh yeah, what is the next step? And it kind of comes through. So you haven't
Yeah.
got that conscious mind to censor what's coming through for you.
It's kind of the same thing when you're looking for your car keys or something, you've forgotten them, you're rushing around like a banshee looking for your car keys. And then you take a deep breath and you stop and you go, you know what? I'll just calm down and I'll find them. And you'll find them within 10 seconds.
Yep.
It's just that because your unconscious mind knows where they are, your conscious mind's just panicking because you're supposed to be somewhere and you're going to be running late and blah, 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 blah. So it's that kind of concept. Cool. So what else?
What else? Brr. Well, there is another thing that I do is I'm just trying to think of how complicated it is if it's complicated.
Well, I'm trying to think like specifically with business, like
Yeah.
what is it that they can be doing to enhance? I guess what one of the things is, I know creativity in business is really vital, and we use it in different ways. But I'm trying to see what are your insights and tips on how that creativity and by doing a couple of simple things can actually increase your productivity. Again, it's what is it? You have to stop to go faster. You have to slow down to go faster.
You do. I mean, at the moment, with my go slow attitude that I've brought in, I'm working on wanting to do a retreat in spring. And so one of the things that I'm feeling into was like, okay, so how does this want to feel? How does it? So I'm actually creating an image of what you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? So actually visualizing what it is that where you want to go, and then seeing is that the picture that I want?
So would it be, I do a lot of, and I know I sit in my masculine energy a lot, I'm very aware of that. But quite often I call it reverse engineering. I go to, what do I want those people at that retreat to come away with?
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's like if it was
Yeah.
happening, like let me picture it. What's happening
Yes.
in this
Yeah.
space, and
How
then
they're looking, what they're
yeah,
experiencing,
how are
like
you? How are
really
you
ramp it
feeling?
up.
What are you
Yeah.
doing? And what's the place look like? How's it all panning out?
Yeah.
Without trying to give it too much structure,
Just let it
just
flow.
letting it go. And then today I came up with it was like I thought about it for a little bit, and then I went off and did my other things, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's what we're calling it.
Yeah.
The more you're open to, that's where the creativity comes in. Like, it's what brings out what's in you and what you want to, what you need to share with the world. So it becomes, it's very personal and it's very unique to you. So I think part of it sometimes is that we're consciously very aware of that, all the comparisons and what else is out there and who am I competing with, and
And who am I better than or worse than? And oh
and
my
that
God,
stuff,
it's
being in that creative space where you just allow what you have to come through.
yeah.
That's where the gold is, so to speak.
Absolutely, because nobody can do you like you can.
No.
Like that, I often give the a metaphor of, you could cut me open right now, and you'll find, a bit of liver, your lungs, kidney. I don't know what condition they're in, blood, guts, and whatever. Yeah, in there, but you'll never find Carmel in there. Just like you'll never find Gisela in there, because nobody can do me like I do, and nobody can do you like you do. And we have this, I often look at, the iceberg that we say, the little bit on top and down. That's our unconscious mind. It's like the biggest, most freaking humongous computer ever that knows everything. So when you put that, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing, it's working around the clock in the background, isn't it?
It is.
And it's having that ability to not shut down your logical brain, because of course your logical brain is keeping you safe somewhat. It needs to know that you need to stop at a bloody red traffic light, for example. Um, but it is keeping it kind of distracted and a little bit busy. I think that's what you're describing with the pen, enough that this one can go, ah. And that's what I call the aha moment. Sometimes you go, oh my God, that just came out. I sometimes read something I've written, maybe a memory will come up on Facebook, and I go, did I write that? Who the hell wrote that? Because I was in a creative mode in that time, and I might be in that more analytical mode when I'm reading it, going, oh, that was some good writing. Who wrote that?
And that's the other one too, that we have the whole critical aspect that comes up as well. So you've got that creative aspect that has all these beautiful, wonderful ideas, but then we've got the critic who comes and goes, meh. And that's that keeping you safe part.
That's one of those selves, isn't it? There's the critic and the procrastinator and all of these, and we have so many different selves.
So
Yeah,
but
it can be quite interesting.
keeping them, befriending them, I guess it's in a way the
That's
way
exactly it.
to go.
They
with
all
it.
have their own job. Yeah.
They all have their own jobs, but they have to have their jobs in the right proportion. So
Yeah. It's an interesting. I don't know if you've ever heard of a thing called voice dialogue, and that's what I'm referring to about the different selves. And it's about embracing them, but we have disowned selves as well, and that's how we kind of get that mismatch. So, for example, mine used to be, if somebody was in their victim, whinging and moaning, I was like, oh my God, blah blah blah. But the fact was, I had disowned my victim self. The victim self has a job. What's the victim's job? To carry the story. That's its actual job. Its job description. If you were to give it a KPI and a job description and how it looks and whatever, like a real person, its job is to carry the story. Its job is not to live in the story, though. So when the person's stuck in that self, what I was saying that as, I've pushed that away. I'm not a victim. What are you talking about? No, not me. So when it would come up, I'd reject it. So it was quite interesting when you started looking at that. I sound like a crazy woman, as if there's all these men running around my head, or women. But it works for me, because then I can visualize the different, the inner critic. You can. I have actually put names on some of myself. My entrepreneur self is Monica Moneybags. But she has a job description. she has a way, an image, and she also has phrases she says. Because I think we sometimes get really highly productive in some area, we get really highly creative. But who is that person that comes out when you're being highly creative?
Mm.
So I've just got it there so I can use some of the phrases. Poor Wanda Workett is my worker self. But if when I need to get stuff done, I can bring up a few phrases that I know Wanda Workett does to get into that state to do it. Biggest thing I've done lately is go in that play. I was in a play, a theatre production here, was having to get into a different character to be in the play, and I resisted it so much because it was a whingy, moaning, angry old woman. But but the practice of that, I thought that's what we do. We show up differently as mother, as we do as wife, as we do as sister and daughter or whatever. It's what we do already, isn't it?
Yeah, we do, and it's so. I mean, really, it shows you how creative we are that we've come up with that kind of way of being, so that we can operate in all these different places.
Yeah. Yeah, a glimpse into Carmel's brain, but let's not go there anymore. So I've got a couple more questions. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love unpacking it a little bit because I know when people watch this, they kind of go, "Oh yeah, I kind of get that," or "Oh, I want to know more about that." So there's one question I want to ask you before I ask you how can people contact you, and that is, if you were doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead?
If I wasn't doing it,
Yeah.
what would I be doing?
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Don't know. Might have gone corporate actually. Actually, not corporate as in corporate, but not for profit.
Right.
I've done a few times working in not for profit, and I love it. Working in
Right.
community.
Okay.
Community work's
Awesome.
brilliant. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. It's so funny when you ask people if you weren't doing that. I asked Francesca Moy that the other day. I said, if you weren't doing what you're doing, like she has a big multi-million dollar business, and she said, I'd probably be working in a hotel in one of those resorts where I can run the events and whatever, and then I can be on holiday all the time.
Sounds
I
good.
went, fair enough. Yeah, the illusion is great. So, if people want to get in contact with you and learn anything about the creative side and act as a therapy, and also I know you do some of the techie side, what's the best way they can contact you?
You can look up the Creativity Counsellor on Facebook, on the Facebook page. I've got stuff there. You can find me on Insta as well under the Creativity Counsellor, and the website, which is creativitycounsellor.com.
Cool. And is the best way through social media or is it better through email? What's the best way for them to
Any
communicate with
way
you?
you like. I'm usually across most things, so
Okay. I usually say, anyway, like carrier pigeons, smoke signals, I'll see them all. I'm Carmel everywhere, remember? So somebody christened me a while ago. So is there anything else, any last words that you would like to share with anyone that may be watching this about plugging yourself into your creativity in order to enhance your business?
creative thinking is, I guess, the new mega thing that's coming through. That's only just getting put into schools, probably in the last 4 years. That they actually
Oh,
decided
okay.
creative thinking is a thing, and it needs to be coming out. So for you to be on the edge of stuff, so to speak, tapping into that creative thinking is so important. So
Yeah.
whether you use it as a tool for bringing your business forward, or whether it's something that you use to actually bring yourself into balance with, so that you can
Yeah.
actually be sustainable and not burn out, because that's
Yeah,
another
and
danger.
that's a real thing for businesses, people that own their own business. A real thing is that burnout, and quite often, I know myself from working in hospitality, ridiculous hours and ridiculous times. That if I'm really honest, in hindsight now, I think I burnt out, and I stayed at a burnt out state for a long time because I just have to survive. I was a single mom with 3 kids, and I just have to. But if I'm looking at it now with the hindsight, I was way burnt out, way, way. And we push ourselves so hard
Push so
because
hard.
we feel that we have to achieve instead of stopping and having a little break instead of having to have the big break.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
bringing that balance in some creative form. You know, people might just like baking or gardening
Yeah.
or whatever your thing is, give
Yeah.
yourself that space to do that.
Well, I always find the thing that I lose time doing. So I make, some raw chocolate, things like that. So sometimes I'm in the kitchen and I'm doing it. I could do that all day. So that is my creative. It's when you're in that zone, in that flow, that tells you what it is. Would you
Definitely.
agree? Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. Awesome. Gisela, thank you so much. It's been my honor to have you on and chat with you. I'll make sure that if anyone contacts you, I'm sure you will tag you in this so they can get in touch with you as well. And what was the last thing I was going to say? I've got mind blank there. These things are life when you do things like that. But I look forward to seeing some of your other things that are coming up because I know you've got things going up. You've got a 5-day challenge at the moment, but I'm looking forward to seeing about your retreat and everything like that because I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Thank you.
That's okay. My pleasure. So, guys, for